Hello, boys and girls. It is time for our read aloud. And in Zoom today, you listen to a nonfiction story or a piece of a text that was nonfiction called Jobs People Do. This week, we're going to be reading some nonfiction texts about jobs people do. So I'm going to read the whole thing to you right now and then give you a chance to think about what you learned and what you remember from the story and what was most interesting to you. And you can share what you learned through drawing and writing, okay? Anytime that we read a nonfiction text, it's important that we get our brains ready to learn new information. All right, so as you're listening today, I want you to pay really close attention to what the book tells you and teaches you about different jobs. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself, well, what did I just learn about this job? Or what did I just learn about this job? And tell yourself that as we go. During our classroom time, we'll stop and talk. But right now, I'm just going to read the whole thing to you since we'll discuss our thinking in Zoom. This is called Jobs People Do by Anita Gennari. All right, so let's read this together and think about true facts that we learned about different jobs. Farmer. Some farmers work on huge farms, like this one in New Zealand. The sheep farmer looks after thousands of sheep. He shears the sheep and sells their wool. If you look at this photograph, you'll learn a little bit about shearing and what that means. I'll put it up closely so you can see. Do you see that farmer taking off the sheep's wool? The photos taught me that. I just learned a fact about farmers and something farmers do. Tell yourself what you just learned. What do some farmers do? Were you thinking about how they shear the wool from sheep? That's one true fact. That's a key detail I learned. These farmers in Thailand have small fields where they grow rice to eat. They plant the rice in the ground. The rice need lots of water to grow. So boys and girls, as the reader, I'm paying really close attention to the facts I'm learning. I just learned some new information. I learned about farmers and how they might shear their wool. And I learned about how farmers might plant food. In this photograph, we learned that they are planting rice in the water. How interesting. That's new information to me. Let's keep reading to see what other jobs people have. This is about a teacher. It is the beginning of the school day in Africa. The children say good morning to their teacher. Then she takes the roll. This teacher in Great Britain helps the children with their work. She listens to them read and helps them with their writing. Ooh, what details did you just learn about what a teacher might do? Think about what this teacher was doing. Taking roll means taking attendance and noticing who's there. Or maybe you were thinking about reading and writing. Those are some things that teachers might do. Vet. Okay, so as you're listening to this page, really be thinking about the details that you learn. What does a vet do? What is his job or her job? A vet is like a doctor, but he or she looks after animals instead of people. If your pet is sick, you can take it to the vet, and he or she will find out what is wrong. Think, what did you just learn that a vet might do? How might it help an animal who is sick? I bet you have an idea in your head. Keep it. You might want to draw that if it was interesting to you. Some vets look after wild animals in a wildlife park. The vets have to be careful because some animals are very dangerous. So interesting. I just learned from this text some information about vets and how careful they have to be. Think about why they have to be careful. Tell someone in the room if they're watching with you. Or tell your stuffed animal. What do they have to do? Why do they have to be careful by some large animals? Let's keep reading. Nurses. Nurses work in a doctor's clinic or in a hospital. They usually wear uniforms. Key detail. You just learned something about a nurse. Keep it in your brain or tell someone. A nurse helps care for people when they are not feeling well. Another key detail. We just learned another piece of information about nurses. Nurses have lots of jobs to do. They talk to the patients, bring them food, give them their medicine, and make their beds. Oh, there was so much information on this page. Stop and remind yourself a key detail that you learned. What is something that a nurse does? Tell someone if they're with you, pretend I can hear you, or a bunch of things. Looking at the photographs might remind you as well. It's important that as the readers, we stop and tell ourselves what we're learning. Firefighter. Boys and girls, we have firefighters in our community right now who are working very hard. So let's really pay attention to what the firefighters' jobs are. Tell yourself what you learn as you listen. Honk, honk. A fire engine is speeding along the street with firefighters on board. The firefighter's job, okay, that's a clue, listen, is to put out fires. It is dangerous, dirty work. The firefighters use hoses to put out the flames. Sometimes a fire spreads very far and fast. Then the firefighters may use planes to drop water on the fire. That might be new information to you. Tell your brain what you learned about the firefighter's job. Use the photographs in nonfiction text. It's often photos. Tell yourself what you learned about a firefighter. And this is our last page that we will read. This says mail carrier. Mail carriers are very important. How do letters and packages get to your house? You probably have a mail carrier who brings the mail every day. He or she may come on foot or in a van or a car. But if you lived in a village in the desert in India, you would get a surprise. Listen, there the mail arrives by camel. How interesting. That might be new information to you. Tell yourself what a mail carrier does. Great. All right, boys and girls, you just had a chance to learn some interesting information about different jobs that people do. Nonfiction texts can teach us information. What I want you to do is I want you to get your writer's workshop notebook out, open it up to the first blank page. So pass the writing that you did last week to your next blank page. Mine fell out, but try to keep yours all together. And you can draw or write to share what you learned about different jobs. Maybe you're thinking about a firefighter or a mail carrier or a teacher or a vet or a nurse. Record your thinking and show what that person does and what that job includes. All right, great job. See ya.